So there had been some kind of ideology in Herbert's church, Worldwide Church of God, that Jesus would die, and I think Herbert sometimes didn't teach that Jesus went to hell after he died, like the Catholics and people think he descended to hell, so he laid open the keys to getting out of hell if we were to go there. And then Herbert taught that Jesus said in the Bible, unless I go to prepare you a place, or some words to this effect, he goes to prepare for you to. Yeah, we had a religious song that had the words modeled after those biblical phrase, quotes. And so Herbert said that was the new Jerusalem that would descend from heaven down onto earth. So also Herbert, according to some, and some of this is ringing a bell with me too, because I heard him preach this, that he said, unless you're from heaven, you can't go back to heaven. So if he believes that, and got his members to believe that, then we thought the New Jerusalem was what we're bound to be in and on. That was for, there was a double connotation. Like Herbert thought, some people said that he was considered the new Elijah, and that the new Elijah was predicted to come back either before Christ returns or something. And so Herbert thought he was the new Elijah, and he predicted, like in early 70s, that Christ would return. But Herbert, you see, got it estimated it wrong when the day, the year came and went, that moment would be. And years passed, and then within about a decade and a half, 15 years, then Herbert died when I was about 10 years old. So ever since then they had the appointed person, Joseph Ducat Sr., who we had a festival of music. They kept producing like a 4-cassette volume, and we had one set called a Festival of Music, and then I had 2 different foam cassette albums with 4 cassettes each of 2 additional of hymnal music from their songs of the Psalms of David, with the lyrics taken from Psalms. Like we had 2/3 of every 150 chapters of Psalms, there was a song written about in the old purple hymnal. So this was a little bit of a weird and different church. The curator, producer of those songs was Dwight Armstrong. And a little bit I'm related to the Armstrongs, because my dad was something like 12th or 14th cousin to him, and he incidentally, Herbert was a Quaker, but I've looked up the Irish-Quaker relationship, and I don't know all about it. But there might be one. But also, let's see. So, after Ducat Sr., there was Ducat Jr., his son, and he was the head of Worldwide Church of God until it changed its name and became GCI, Grace Christian International. And when it changed its name, it allowed the sub-units, its satellite members, to change their names if they wanted to. And I wanted to vote to keep Worldwide Church of God for our name, even I would have for the head's name. The only thing is I voted that way, but they didn't decide to, that wasn't the majority vote, and I didn't win. But they voted locally in Elkhart, Indiana, to have the name Grace Family Fellowship, and that's the one they have out there. And more recently they took up the Spanish church on the southeast side, I think on 33, close to it, or County Road 19 or something. And so then there's the idea that after they changed their name, then after Takash Jr., there was Greg Williams, and he's the fourth member of our church who is the head right now. And they have changed so entirely that that the Ambassador College has now become Ambassador Auditorium. Ambassador College has become Ambassador University. Of course, they had the auditorium. I meant to say Ambassador College became Ambassador University. And when they did become that, they also got on the head evangelistic or evangels society, and that must have been an indication that they so entirely changed their ways that it was pretty magnificent. See, here's that. Yeah. So, anyway, my dad joined Herbert's church in 1956, and my mom joined it in 71, and my sister was born in 65 to my mom. We both share the same mother, Martha Bell Shanklin, and my dad is Max Eugene Williams, and I'm David Eugene Williams. And after my sister was born, her biological dad was Robert Lee Taylor down in southern Indiana, though it was north from Hopkinsville, where Mom was originally from and where she was born. But in about 1973, my dad and Mom started dating, and then in January 74 they married. And then when they married, just a 2.5 years later, I was born August 2nd, 1974. August 2nd, 1976. I said that wrong. I was born August 2nd, 1976. I think I have a nose hair here but I don't think it's really in my nostril. I think it's really just in my mustache. But some people don't always see, and I know there's stigma that's out there. I know some people frown and they act real sort of stuck up, like Charlie Sheen. He's mocking gay people. And then they say, "Oh no, a nose there." But anyway, to me it makes a difference whether it really originates in the mustache, but just looks like it's coming from the nose. Yeah. And it's nice when someone owns hygiene equipment, even if they, of course, I got my mental diagnosis in the later half of the 1990s. My sister had a boyfriend named David Seekman from Michigan who gave me a little model cannon and a dirt bike and different fun things, and then he gave me a Porsche ride at 130 miles an hour down a freeway. He used a radar detector to try to avoid the police. But it was fun altogether. And then fourthly, David had a chainsaw he took the chain off of and revved it up, turned it on for Halloween one year to scare the children. And the cannon I got into trouble with it and was going to be penalized. It's called convicted, but I wasn't convicted. I was being charged, but not convicted ever. I was of 2 felonies and 3 misdemeanors. One of the felonies was violating a FOID ownership of a firearm in Illinois, and another one was resisting arrest for a misdemeanor. But that led to my mental diagnosis. I had set it off on top of the flat roof of my parents' home, and earlier Harold, my friend from Paris, Illinois, he and I set off bottle rockets over the police department, which is within the block from us to the northwest of there. And you can't get by with it. Can't get by with that. Always, like in a city population of 10,000 of Paris, Illinois. But I didn't know that. I'd had government instruction, and then when I was about to leave Paris High School, when I graduated, they said no one set off any fireworks, and I thought, well, the cannon is a little bit like a firework, but I thought, I don't know, when I ran out of Pyrodex, I used real black powder that I got from a gun store in Terre Haute, but the person selling it to me just said, just don't use too much of it. That's what I thought. I perhaps wouldn't get into trouble if I just didn't use too much of it. Or maybe rather, it also would have more proportionately helped if I'd always set it off out of town or out at the Shoes farm, Michael Shoes. Whoops, that's another name. But the other guy was Harold. But anyway, got my diagnosis over at Carl Pavilion, Champaign, Illinois, from a Dr. Weiss and Ann at about 1998 or 99 or something. And back then the Titanic movie came out, but I had already watched it up at a theater close to Three Rivers, Michigan. And it went verbatim, of course, the same way. But I sat through most of all of it and watched some female fellow mentally ill like me girls crying over it. They liked the romance in it, I guess. And I felt emotional, but just not, totally brought to my emotional needs that I needed to cry over. And so they put me on Haldol, but that made my muscles contract. In the contraction, I at one time had a Honda CX500 and I was attempting to drive it, ride it back from the shoes place down southeast to Paris at Nevins, Illinois, little suburb. And I had to have Cogentin to smooth my muscles out because I was starting to have contractures of my contractions, or whatever it's called, of my muscles, and I was angling into a curve in the road to go off to the side to curve around. And I didn't have an accident, which I'm thankful to God. But most of the time my technique, instead of not trusting my own understanding, which I'm not to trust my own understanding according to what I kind of believe my Christianity, though recently I tried new techniques to force that further, more recently, the short term recently. But back then, let's see. I was talking about anyway, I needed Cogentin, and so back then there were some nurses who said, I'll just pick up wherever I can. But some of the nurses said that it's a reaction. I'm got an allergic reaction to Haldol. But others say that that's the normal, response, meaning that I'm actually really am mentally ill, and that's the brain's response and the body's response to processing the anti-psychotic. And of course, I don't like the second diagnosis because I'm sort of supposed to be godlike, and it's a slap in my own face. And many times I read tough people's talks and dissertations and stuff about how to get therapy and help, and even self-help stuff like that about mental illness, and it just ends up offending me. I have to have deep breathing and practice trigger abatement and resistance just because I'm reading that kind of stuff. So that's a pretty bad time for me. I usually end up getting tired of reading it, and it doesn't make sense mostly. NIMH and NIH stuff is just worse. I don't understand. They have many times tough words, and then they get into scientific notation and longitudinal and cross-sectional studies. If you're a very smart nurse, maybe you understand most of it. But I'm not. So anyway, thank you for watching this. I'll talk to you later. Bye.